it's Debbie, and welcome to this week's training session. Last week we talked about the 5 possible reasons that you might have found yourself at a logjam, a roadblock, or at an obstacle that you don't know how to get over, whether that's I don't know where to begin, I don't know how to start, I don't know what my next step is. And we identified that one of the critical pieces was the concept of when. When do I take that next step? And following along with that, this week we're going to talk about when, but in a completely different context. We're going to talk about when do I take a break? When do I step away from what I'm doing? And what that actually means. Because of all of the things that you do, this one has the largest potential negative impact on both the dog and on the human. So that's an important one. That's why we put that into this sequence. So let's talk about the two things that could possibly happen. I'm going to use them. I'm going to put them both in red. First one, which I think is the worst of the two. Can't even spell it this morning. Okay, forget that extra one. Is too late. Jeez, I really can't spell today. Too late. I take a break too late. And on the other side, I take a break too early. And why are those potential flaws? Well, potential problems for your training of your dog, you're teaching your dog something. Number one, let's talk about too early. Too early, you just never get a chance to figure out what is possible. You're shortchanging your dog, you're shortchanging yourself. That is a cop-out. I'm sorry if that's rough, but I call it as I say. If you are stopping too early all the time, now, don't get me wrong, I love when people have the self-management to be able to cut a training session short. But if you're doing this all the time, you're shortchanging everybody. You're shortchanging the dog and you're shortchanging you. If you're cutting off projects, if you're working in business and you're always stopping them before you just push them and see if you can get to that next step, you're shortchanging everybody. You've got to do this. You've got to stick with it. Too late. This is the worst of the two. Too late is so highly potentially damaging to both the dog and the human. And when I say that, individually and also as a team. It erodes confidence in the dog. And the challenge is, if you set out to do a skill, and the first time you try it, the dog gets it, what do? We just hammer away at it. We try it again and again and again. And what can you do? What are the possible outcomes that you will see? At some point in time, the dog is going to fail, and the dog is going to go, oh crap. So it really wasn't the first one that I did she wanted this, or this, or this. So now, instead of building super confidence in your dog by stopping after getting that very first one, you now have created a challenge where the dog is going, I don't know. So you're eroding the clarity and you're eroding the confidence. And you're not building anything in yourself if you keep doing that, right? Because what you're saying to yourself is, I really don't know what I want. I really don't. So I'm just going to keep going and going and going until I think I know what I want, but I really don't know. No good for anybody, is it? It really isn't good for anyone to do things in that fashion. And so let's just talk about, how do I know? How do I know if I've gone over that fine line? And sometimes it's a really super fine line. Every dog is different. I tend to go, and again, this is one of the reasons for why I preach the moments. If you focus your training on moments, and down the road, a couple of training sessions down, we've got a training session that'll help you understand what a moment really is, and how to find it, and how to understand it. But every dog is different. I am a 3 to 5. I'm a 3 to 5 reps, and my training sessions are usually 15 seconds, 30 at the outside. They're rare that I go any longer than that. And that's because of how I've set things up. Because it works in a very busy lifestyle, in a small space, traveling and so on. It works for everybody. So what are the signs that I've pushed my dog too far? Frustration. You're frustrated. That's the one that I think shows we catch first. But actually the dog's probably got 2 or 3 already happened that you just didn't see. So the dog gets frustrated by trying to offer many different things and not getting rewarded for anything. Now I do have a dog who has a repertoire, and he's so, I gotta catch it fast. So sometimes, but he has a high, we do have to push frustration because the dogs have to learn how to work through frustration. You don't want to frustrate them to the point where they shut down or they get anywhere near that. There is an art to engaging frustration and using it as a positive. So that's where he sits. So they get frustrated. What happens? They shut down. They stop doing stuff. They freeze. They just go, duh. Can't do it. They bark, and 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 they bark, because they just don't get it. And I know there are some barking dogs. I've had barking dogs, but when dogs really get it, when they really get it, they stop barking. It's rare to find a dog that can be totally engaged with all of these things and continue to bark and be totally clear and on it. It's rare. There are very few of them around. They get nippy, they get grabby, stuff like that. They walk away. They just go, huh? When you figure it out, call me. I'll be back. But until that time, I'm going to do something that I know that I can do, and it'll make me happy. They won't engage. There's no body language that says, you know what? I'm really enjoying this. So tail's not moving. And yes, there are some dogs, there are many dogs whose tails don't wag as they're learning, but once they get it, their tails start wagging. You'll learn how to identify that. And they get some can get testy. You know, say they don't want anybody around because they're like so frustrated. They've lost their learning mode. So that's important to remember those signs. You got to watch. So when I talk about a break, so let's just before I go to talking about a break and what the impact of a break is, let's talk about the different types of a break. You can have a break of just a few minutes, you know, and if you set aside, and most people don't do this, but I highly suggest that you do this, that you set aside a specific amount of time to do your training in. Let's say it's 5 minutes. I'm going to do 5 minutes before dinner every night. We do training before each meal. It's part of our routine, and it goes off the rails right away. If you're doing little training sessions of 30 seconds or 15 seconds, 30 seconds, and you just want to get up and walk away, you can get up and walk around the house and come back. Your breaks don't have to always be breaks. They're just break the activity, get away, get up and walk. And this goes back into this literally goes back to human psychology. When you're at a roadblock or anything like that, physical activity, physical movement will cause a chemical reaction in your body, and you free up your brain. It's why when you're in an office, and this has happened to me many times, you can't solve a solution and you say to the next person next to you, can you give me a hand with this? And they go, yeah, sure, I'll help you out. You get up, you walk over to the desk, and you go, good, got the answer. It's that disconnection, that physical movement of walking over there that allows space in your mind to free up. The same thing happens in dog training. The same thing happens in dogs. It's that get up and move around. So that's the first one. Just take a little break. Now, sometimes it's just because your mechanics were off or something, and you know what it is. Sometimes when I get ready and my treats aren't in the right place and I feel right off the bat that I'm not good, I just take a break and reset. Sometimes it's just simply like a reset. You need to do that. On the other end of the scale is, and some people say, you want to stop a training session when the dog is happy. Well, if things are going off the rails and you don't know why they're going off the rails, you just need to walk away. So sometimes you need to say, this is the middle ground. This is the middle ground. I'm just going to put this training session on hold. We tried it, it didn't work. And I'm going to come back tonight. So my other training session is before dinner at night. I'm going to come back to them. The dog will be so much happier than you pushing through something where things weren't going as expected. But if you're in that scenario where things it's just not working right, and whether you're doing it in agility or rally or any of those dog sports, or you're doing it in your business, or basically puppy training, for example, it's just not working, you just don't get it. Maybe it's you don't have the right tools, maybe you don't have the right information, maybe you don't know how to do it correctly, and maybe you need some outside guidance. So you just put that away and you come back to something different. But maybe it's something that if you have been videoing, you just flip your smartphone on and you got your Joby grip and you've attached it up. You can just take a break. And on your commute to work, you can just look at your phone and go, well, that was pretty silly. And the answer becomes very obvious to you. So this really and truly, I do all of my training with this on. Well, not always this one. I have 3 of them. Two of them are actually non-working cell phones that I actually have handy, that if I want to video something I can. I have my Joby grip, which is over there somewhere. And, oh, thank you for that commentary. Got a sleeping dog down here. Just had a little bit of a yawny thing. And I can just go, yeah, there's a problem right there. Or you send it to your coach, or you send it to a friend and you say, what am I doing wrong? What's causing this? So that's the type of break that you want to be able to take. Now let's talk about what are the impacts, the good and the bad of a break. Okay, so I've got a bunch of them here. I'm just going to put them up on the board. That way, if you want to write them down a little bit later on, you can. So right off the bat, I'm going to start. Big board. Not my normal studio, so it wiggles. Erodes confidence. Like I said, if you are pushing it beyond where the dog is actively learning correctly, you're going to be eroding their confidence. Mental exhaustion. Mental exhaustion. Both parties, can't spell either, both parties are going to be mentally exhausted. It is so exhausting to be doing something that isn't working. Get that all the time in business. We start on a project, we work on something, and it's like trying to push a car uphill. And there's a lot of times where that's really important to do, but there's other times it's like, oh, and I got mud boots on and stuff. I'm mentally exhausted. You don't learn anything. Your dog doesn't learn anything when everybody's mentally exhausted. So that's important to remember. The consistency drops. Super important. If things are going off the rails, you're always going to find that the consistency of good execution goes off the rails, both for you and for your dog. If you're finding that, you're past where you should have stopped. If you can't get, and this is the challenge, because like I talked about at the very beginning, if you do something and the dog gets it right off the bat, then you're going to stop, right? But what if it's little bits, and little bits, and you can see little progresses, like they're teeny tiny, little teeny tiny one, and then you start seeing it's going, it's barely noticeable. It's like going to McDonald's every day. You don't really notice how bad it is for you until you're a year down the road and you're like 30 pounds heavier and your insides are going, oh God, why are you eating that stuff? Why don't you at least get a salad there? That type of thing. So really important to remember that particular thing. Okay, so another thing is when you don't take breaks, you actually don't explore possibilities. And what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? Just let me get it written down so I'm not in the way. If you are not taking breaks, that means you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. Because when you increase a challenge, when you take another step, you should have a break in between there so the dog understands. It's a sign that says, you know what, we're going to the next step. We're going to have a little bit of a break here. This is a reset. It's a reset. We're going to set our headspace. We're going to the next step. So when you don't take breaks, you are actually reducing. You're not exploring the possibilities for the dog. And the other thing is that you reduce the challenge. Reduce the challenges. Because, like I said, if I know that when you're not taking next steps, you're stuck in your comfort zone, you're doing the same thing over and 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 over again. And yes, consistency is the key to success at whatever level, whatever success looks like for you. But I'm not talking about consistency in doing the exact same thing with no purpose. Consistency is doing the training at the same time every day for the same length of time over and over again. Consistency is not doing the same exercise over and over and over and over and over and over. That's repetition. It's totally right. Now, those are kind of the negatives. Those are the things, I've got those under the too early, but it's actually, I didn't intend to put it under the too early. Let's flip these over here. Put those over there the opposite way around. What happens? There is no benefit to going too late. There really isn't. The odd time you might find that you get some inspiration, but 99% of the time there is no benefit to going too late. But too early. What if we go too early? What are the benefits of going too early? Well, it builds anticipation for the dog. I get this all the time with my dogs. When I start something, get it out, do something, put it away, they're like, huh? What are you doing? We love that stuff. Bring that back out here. And I just put it away. Or I move it around, you know, and I've got sitting down here, I've got a fit bone sitting down here right beside me. I moved it from one spot in the studio to another, and they went, oh. So too early, if you use it strategically, can be to your benefit. But you don't want to be always too early. Every once in a while, you just want a little bit of a surprise. It's kind of fun to have that little bit of a surprise. Now, the other thing that both of these things can do, when used strategically, it will give you, this is for you specifically, a better understanding of the dog's capacity. And when I say capacity, I mean both learning capacity and physical capacity. So if you are pretty consistent and you know what your training moments are, and every once in a while you do too early, you've allowed them to have some space, you've got some anticipation built up. Every once in a while you're going to push too late. Just push it, just that split beyond what when you think you should have stopped. That will give you a better understanding of capacity. Because until you do that, you don't know what the dog's capacity is. Caveat, moments. I don't ever encourage anybody to be training 5, 10, 15 minutes continual in canine conditioning or in any physical activity, agility, anything like that. The physical actions of doing it. Unless they're sitting, getting ready right up to do something, it's part of the training strategy. But you need to have a mechanism to be able to figure out what is the dog capable of without eroding their confidence, their progression, their physicality, all those pieces. And that, every once in a while, strategically, both too late and too early, will allow you to do that. I know it's a little bit technical, right? Impact. Okay, now we know what the impact is of going either too late or too early. What are the causes of it? Why do we go too late? Why do we go too early? Well, right off the bat, I'm going to say we get greedy. We honestly do. And I see it. I think you ask any trainer, and we're guilty too. Sometimes we do it in our training sessions with our students. We push them a little bit because we know there's a time frame. It's greedy. We just, especially when you're in a training session where there is a time constraint on it. There is a dollar value and a time constraint. Our minds say we need to get X value out of that. Not we need to help our dog become their very best by doing XXX. We quantify it into a very mechanical dollars and cents equals time. That is a major problem. So that you need to be aware of, and you need to be able to say, okay, if I came with the objective of X, that's what I'm focused on. If it happens in the first, and I've had this happen when I've had my dogs in a group class. The exercise has been to do X, and on average, each of the dogs has been taking, maybe 3 to 4 minutes to do the thing. And I've had, I have a dog and goes out and the dog goes, boom, gets it, 30 seconds, done. I don't continue. I just go back and I say, awesome dog, and so on. And I go, okay, so we need to push that a little bit more for the next session. I don't go, I paid X amount for this and I'm entitled to a certain amount of time. So that's really important for you to remember, is you need to frame your training sessions not based on a cost basis. Now, the other thing, the other thing is, a lot of people, particularly in this area right there, they don't actually know what it feels like to stop at a certain point. They only are familiar with pushing to failure. And I think that's an important thing for you to understand, is that we want our dogs to be succeeding. We want our businesses to be succeeding. We want our families to be great. We don't want to set everything up to fail. We actually want to set it up for success. So as a dog owner, as a teacher of the dog, you need to learn how to feel what it feels like when things are working really well. It comes with time, but you have to be quite self-aware and understanding those feelings. And one of the last things that I want to talk about is I talked about a little bit about walking around in the house, But from a more strategic point of view, when I take a break, what am I doing? I'm stopping. I'm point blank stopping. I'm not doing something else. I'm stopping. I'm letting the dog go off somewhere else so I can either stop, then I'm going to sit down and go, okay, what could I do differently? I could do it right there. I could set up my little plan and come back with a little bit of a plan. I could have already had a plan, especially if you're working on something. You've been working on something for a little bit and you're somewhere near a breakthrough. You need to have a plan handy so that if they do get it right off, or within your thing, then you can say, awesome, finished, let's go, take a break, come back with your new plan, because you've already thought it out. It isn't like, oh my God, Jeannie came out of a bottle and we got it. Now what do? If you have a little bit of thought ahead of time as to what are you going to do when your dog successfully does what you're set out to do. What is your next step? So that's one. And the other thing that you can do is if you want to take what I would call micro breaks. This is where your dog understands boundary, or bed, or mat, or place, or whatever you want to call it. You send the dog there, let the dog go, and do a tweak on the fly. Tweak on the fly works really, really well if you've been videoing. So you can look and go, oh, yeah, me. I think you'll see I'm just trying to think, in the video Tic Tac games, you can find that in the YouTube library. You will find a video in there, I think it's called Training Live, where I totally mess up my hands. Totally mess up my hands, which screws up the dog and causes the dog to flip back and stuff like that. That I knew I was doing something wrong. It felt mechanically wrong, but I couldn't identify it for whatever reason. That was done later on at night, probably tired, probably shouldn't have been training. But because I was able to go, oh, there it is, and just fix it, solve the problem right away. That's what's really important. Sometimes it just mechanically doesn't feel right, and that's what I would call a tweak on the fly. Your head says, you know what? You really need to use your right hand to do the rewarding, and the body goes, this is my left hand, by the way. It does not compute. That would be a tweak on the fly. You say, okay, you know what? You need to be really conscious of that, and you need to use your right hand. So right hand reward, right hand reward. So that's one of the things. The last thing that I want to talk to you about is something that I would call metrics. And I see this a lot in question. You see a lot in pretty much in every discussion group about anything to do with fitness, whether it's human, dog, equine, porcine, anything, feline, anything to do with fitness. People are always asking how many reps. Well, you've heard me talk about it a little bit. I'm a 3 to 5 kind of girl. That's my secret. It's what works for me. I don't think there's any value beyond going beyond 5. And it just isn't. Maybe there's some scientific methodology on that, but I have yet to see that. And the same thing goes with the time. It's how many reps, how long. Well, if we went back to the video that we did last week, which we were talking about the why, the roadblocks, why being the first one, when you're talking about how long, if you are doing something for the purpose of an endurance dog sport, then you probably want to do something longer than a particular thing. And this doesn't always hold true, but you may want to do something for a substantially longer period of time than someone who does a sprint sport, or someone who has a pet, who's just looking for having a pet that has an active lifestyle, that's comfortable in their body, they're a nice weight, and so on. So all those things are all very different, and those are things that you want to get comfortable with, and understanding that if your dog looks like they're physically tired, if their capacity drops, if their consistency drops, all those things that we talked about over here if these things start to happen, then your number of reps and your time is wrong. And if you're not getting this and you're not getting improvement, then they're not enough. So that's that. It's like the justice scale, right? It's like it's constantly like this. Or if you think about our Fit Pause equipment, it's like our rocker board and our wobble board. It's constantly this. It's this. We're always looking for how do we get it to there. It's a constant evolution. Now let's talk about the dog metrics. And we're not talking about putting on some monitors on them or anything like that. These are simple metrics that everybody can use. Is your dog happy? Is your dog actively coming into your training area looking to start doing his training? Or is he hanging out back there going, not interested? That's the number one metric. Is his tail wagging? Now, this is a bit of a catch-22, because in the world of canine conditioning, when the tail wags, it puts the dog off balance. So a wagging tail is actually adding challenge to the thing that they're doing. Something to know, right? You also want to be always, and this is another one of my preach the posture. You always want to be aware of your dog's posture. Good posture, and in my videos you'll hear me say thank you to my mom. She suffered from polio as a young child, had scoliosis. Her back looks like Iron Man's back with metal all the way through it. She has twisted hips, but she is a spare on the Olympic diving team, and she was a model. And she always was about posture. Stand up straight, nice and balanced. Keep your tummy in, your butt in, your upper body out, shoulders level, head up, and look. And you'll see me, I'm constantly aware of that when I see myself in video. And same for dogs. When you're looking at, you want to be looking for neutral back. You want to be looking for feet that are, they're, when you look at it from the side, you can't see the back foot because it's in line with the other one. Same with the back feet. Head position, relaxed neck. In the Find Your Starting Point assessment, the book, which again the link is down below, 5 simple assessments, those will help you. You always need to keep those in mind. Those are key metrics that you want to be watching for. And the last one would be, does your dog look tired? Does your dog look physically tired? Are they panting? Are they not able to, if they started off doing something, are they not able to hold it balanced where they were before? Very common with the more senior dogs. I've run classes where the dogs come in. It's a one hour class. The dogs work for, it's a class of about 50 minutes. Each dog does 2 15-minute segments. These are very skilled, very fit dogs, but 15 minutes of intense work, physical work. So it's simulating what they would do outside and so on. These dogs are showing happiness, insane willingness to work, but you can see that they are towards the end, and this is the intention of this class, is to build muscle through tiring the muscles. So there is a reason for it, but you must be aware that that particular thing is occurring. And my last metric is the human metric. It is so important that you must be enjoying whatever you're doing. Yes, there'll be days where it totally sucks, but if you're doing something with your partner, with your dog, whether it's your puppy, whether it's your teenager, your adult, your senior dog, whether you have 1, 2, 3, 11, whatever, are you enjoying it? Like really enjoying it? Is it fun? Is it putting a smile on your face? Most of the time. If it's not, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. And every once in a while, if you're in a session and you're just not finding that you're having fun, you're enjoying it, then why do it? There's no value. There's no value to it. And the last piece in the human metric, does it feel like a loop of repetition? I think this is so important because people get stuck. And if you find that when you're doing it, you're in a loop of repetition, well, the whole purpose of this video was to help you understand, when do I need to take a break? That would be when you take a break, when you find yourself in a loop of repetition. And how big a break it is depends on how long you've been in that loop of repetition. If it seems like it's just that session, then you just need to break off session, come up with another plan, something different, take a next step, go back to your other one, which was our 5 ways to get out of a logjam, and go from there. I hope this helps you understand the importance that it is to take a break. It is a supercharger, and I think it's something that people don't do often enough. In my business, I work in blocks of 90 minutes, because if I don't take that 15-minute break to just get up, move around, do that, my creativity just goes, my brain goes, I can still produce, but I'm not, it's not for the benefit of all involved. I am better off to take a 15-minute, and my dogs love this, because if it's a 15-minute break, I can take one dog and go, you know what, let's go for a quick little run around the yard, come back in. They're good. They had a little bit of exercise, and we go back to another 90-minute block. So make sure that you're thinking about this. If you feel like you're maybe pushing it a little bit, then you need to think about your breaks. And stay tuned. We're going to have there's another video coming up shortly that helps you identify your moments and your time blocks. And until then, I hope you enjoyed this. I love seeing you guys. I'm looking forward to seeing some of you take that assessment and let us know what you find with your dog. Bye for now. See you next week. Coming to you on Thursdays every week.